Welcome to the chaos sector. We return to the matrix. In the matrix, of course, when the black cat crossed the path of the group, Neo noticed it and was intrigued by it. The group tells Neo that presence of that black cat was a sign of déjà vu, or a glitch in the matrix. In other words, there were agents in the area. Now, it seems that certain aspects we address regarding the Idaho murders case causes a glitch, you see. Quote, OMG, did you really say, quote, and then it's okay, I'm here to help you? If you're going to quote, you should quote accurately. Everyone for some reason adds the word here. The quote is actually, it's okay, I'm going to help you, unquote. Quote, anyone else notice it's only the channels with zero law degree that pushes this conspiracy BS, unquote. Now we start with the first comment from Jeff. Yes, this person is quite sneaky in our eyes. This comment would be considered trolling. Seems he picked a fine time to troll, considering everything being exposed in the case. In addition, Jeff knows the chaos doesn't troll. So what the hell is this? Out of everything broken down in the prior episode, Jeff decides to post that comment. Now let's break it down to crumbs to show how pathetic Jeff is. Let me ask Jeff a question if you're watching. If someone is going to help you, aren't they also here to help you? I mean, they have to physically be there to help you, right? Now he would say, well, here to help you may indicate that someone is a part of a prior cooperation with that person, while going to help you may indicate that someone has arrived and is offering their help. Okay, but since you don't know which context we are using when we use here to help you, just leave it be. It's not that serious. Because they can also mean the same thing, here to help you, and going to help you could be the same scenario, you see. Nobody cares about this nonsense because it doesn't change anything about the scenario anyway. They are still there to help you. And even more so, that statement is coming from a conspirator. So here to help you, going to help you, who the hell cares? What matters is the person is there to help assist in covering up the murders. And Jeff H. knows this, but somehow felt it was necessary to address which word the conspirator used. Oh, okay, it was important. This fucker. Oh, this is silly. Exactly. Now dump that same silliness onto Jeff H. because he brought it up. Jeff H. was one of the individuals who got their hands on that Linda Lane surveillance as well, and we wondered about his authenticity, because that surveillance was not released by authorities. So whoever passed that along is linked to someone who, quote, scammed the landlord out of the surveillance, you see. That was a conspiracy to make it appear Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra was present, so everyone who dumped that out was attached to that conspiracy, you see. And don't think they just, quote, indirectly obtained that footage. It was handed off to these individuals with the knowledge that it was edited. And as we know, the landlord wouldn't give the surveillance to Sally or Jason or any other so-called civilian. Obviously, it was law enforcement, such as their video forensics team, a conspiracy chain that led to it being leaked to the public. And we noticed that when we address the Linda Lane surveillance, Jeff H. makes his way in our comment section. It never fails. It's like he's keeping track of what we analyze about that specific footage. Seems to be a trigger for him, right? This is because he is a part of the group who wanted to push the narrative that Kohberger's vehicle was spotted in that surveillance. But he never presented a theory or analysis, just, quote, presenting the surveillance for educational purposes. Yeah, if you say so. Jeff H., Get a Clue, Grey Hughes, and all other little snoopers are part of a group that are trying to convince the public that Kohberger's vehicle was present in that surveillance. He had videos where he is examining the vehicle, titled, quote, sure looks like a 2015 Elantra to me. Well, if you put an overlay of an Elantra in the video, sure it may look like it, but you see that's the problem with that footage, as we mentioned. That so-called 2015 Elantra would have also been spotted on a camera closer to the home, with a better visual to determine if it's an Elantra. But as we all know, Jeff H. couldn't examine that surveillance because it was never released by the authorities, never leaked by the neighbor, never leaked by Olivia, never leaked by anyone. Because there is not a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra spotted in that surveillance. So if it's not there, how is it there in another area? I think you know the answer to that question. This is nothing but suggestive programming, trying to convince the public that Kohberger was the killer. And even recently, he has a video where he is comparing Hyundai Elantras. Really? I mean, with all of the evidence proving that Dylan was involved in the murders, Moscow PD not providing her whereabouts prior to the murders, Bonnie being the DoorDash driver, Batman snooping around in Pullman searching for a white Hyundai Elantra before the vehicle was identified. and giving W Campus Police Kohberger's vehicle November 29th, weeks prior to an official make and model was identified by a so-called FBI expert. No evidence that Kohberger even knew those housemates, let alone stalked them. Yet there were claims digital evidence proved he contacted and followed them on social media, claims that he broke into his friend's home, but wasn't arrested for home invasion, yet was identified as the home invader, claims that he was spotted at an Albertsons grocery store later that morning. Yet no surveillance footage was released of the suspect. No official surveillance was released by authorities of his vehicle in the neighborhood. Detectives discovered the black coat Maddie was wearing on Taylor Avenue, grab a weapon out of it, throw the coat back to the ground, disregard it or hiding, evidence. 3 additional males' DNA samples found at the crime scene, blood of another. Male discovered on the stair rail, but detectives never identified nor investigated this person. I mean, what the hell? Should I continue? Are you kidding me? Kohberger was framed, and instead of Jeff H. presenting that in his content, he's still examining Hyundai Elantras? It's not weeks after the murders, Mr. H. It's been 2 years, and it's clear to everyone who isn't a DC agent that this man was framed. This is ridiculous. Get a Clue claims there was a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra spotted in the Linda Lane surveillance, which is what the so-called FBI expert identified from another camera, because it definitely wasn't that specific year in that footage. And of course, he outlined the body type matching it with the vehicle. Okay, let's do this one more time. If this vehicle was a white Hyundai Elantra, then this means the vehicle had to come from Queen Road, which means this 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra would have been spotted by the neighbor's security camera entering the neighborhood on King Road, right? After all, isn't this the surveillance that the so-called FBI expert identified the year of the Elantra? Yet, for some odd reason, they have never released the surveillance from that camera to, without a doubt, prove that a white Hyundai Elantra was in that neighborhood. Ah, but the Linda Lane surveillance is dumped out there, showing a white vehicle snooping around, and individuals are outlining the vehicle to match a Hyundai Elantra. There is no reason that the FBI expert, Moscow PD, nor the prosecution would keep this alleged evidence a secret. Again, if the Linda Lane surveillance was leaked out there, why wasn't the next door neighbor's surveillance leaked as well? Wouldn't it show a white Hyundai Elantra? We went over this over and over, and now once again over and over. If the vehicle depicted in the Linda Lane surveillance is Kohberger's vehicle, then it has to be coming from Queen Road. There's no other way to circle Queen Road apartments unless you travel down Queen Road all the way to the back, which circles around the apartments. Again, this needs to be tacked on the wall of your investigative work or inquiries. The vehicle has to travel down Queen Road, being spotted by the security camera next door, to be later so-called captured by the Linda Lane surveillance further in the distance of the neighborhood. If there isn't any footage presented from that neighbor's camera showing a white Hyundai Elantra during the time frame they allege Kohberger was present, based on the path of travel, then just throw all of it in the garbage, because it's a fabricated path. Again, so Jeff H. can stop focusing on one half of a path and focus on the prior path the vehicle had to travel through to get to that fucking path. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and suggest he's never inquired about the security camera next door, which would show the 2015 white Hyundai Elantra entering the neighborhood he was so sure was spotted in the Linda Lane surveillance. The screenshot or snapshot from the next door neighbor's security camera is, a snapshot, meaning there was a review of the surveillance footage and someone decided to take a snapshot of that specific time frame in surveillance, which shows absolutely nothing. It's snapped at the time 1:56 a.m., which is alleged to be when Kaylee and Madison returned home. But if there isn't any physical footage of a vehicle being spotted, even with the snapshot at 1:56 a.m., what the hell is the purpose of leaking this to the public? At least take a snapshot of physical activity, right? And this magnifies the fuckery with that leak. Because if they couldn't take that snapshot, then they definitely were afraid to take a snapshot of the time frame the murders had occurred. Because there isn't a white Hyundai Elantra in that neighborhood. And this is ultimately why there hasn't been a leak of the surveillance footage altogether, you see? Again, this makes the Linda Lane surveillance obsolete, edited footage, it's simple. Mind you, all of the claims the mainstream media have made, claiming there was digital evidence that Kohberger followed the girls on social media, has never been confirmed by Moscow PD nor the prosecution. meaning there isn't any evidence in their evidence locker that has proof of any link between the defendant and victims. Again, they refuted this claim in the previous hearing, claiming that was mainstream media speculation. So they don't claim Kohberger stalked the victims, and that eliminates a motive. But as we pointed out, the mainstream media got that information from somewhere, right? Guess who? A so-called law enforcement source. Simply put, the FBI is behind that, with fuckers like Mark Furman snooping around, drumming up those claims to paint the narrative. This is exhausting, but we have to keep going over the same analysis because people keep questioning our investigative work. Then we have the surveillance. Now Moscow PD and the prosecution have to stand by this because it's a part of the physical path. But again, they have not provided any evidence that such surveillance exists. Mind you again, Moscow PD obtained surveillance from the neighbor's camera the very next day. They obtained surveillance from Linda Lane apartments, but they themselves have not released any of this to the public. But they released footage from a gas station showing a white vehicle speeding down the road, not even close to the scene of the crime. There is absolutely no reason in relation to the investigation, the trial, anything that has prevented law enforcement from releasing this footage to the public, especially if that vehicle would later be publicly identified as a potential person of interest. They wanted the public to be on the lookout for a vehicle that they spotted in surveillance footage, but wouldn't release the footage of that vehicle spotted to the very public you want to be on the lookout for? Bonkers, right, Jeff H.? This is because there is no white Hyundai Elantra in that footage. All of this alleged footage, and the only thing that has been released is a leaked screenshot from the neighbor's camera, which shows nothing. Leaked surveillance footage from Linda Lane apartments, which the landlord apparently just handed it over to some random person with no law enforcement background. Wait a minute, just wait one fucking moment. Didn't Gray Hughes visit those apartments and had a verbal altercation with the landlord? Didn't JLR visit that area as well? Could the landlord be so naive that he gave that surveillance footage to one of these idiots, posing as, quote, investigative journalist? Gray Hughes has a background in video editing, such as creating crappy 3D animations. JLR has a background in a variety of criminal activity, such as impersonation. They could be the source of that leak and then pretend they're within the community, basically examining it. Yep. The only conclusion we can come to here is that there isn't a white Hyundai Elantra in that footage. And if everyone has followed, this means it is not a white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance neither. Hence, it was edited to appear to be. All of the conspirators tried to pull a fast one on the public. They did it in a subtle manner, pretending to be indifferent as to what their conclusion would be about the case. But they're stuck because that's not the most devastating surveillance. To prove it, it would be the neighbor's security camera footage. And of course, that footage hasn't been leaked to the public, like the Linda Lane surveillance has. If an alleged killer drives his vehicle into a neighborhood and commits the murders, the surveillance footage that captures the vehicle's entrance and departure would be released. Even if you didn't have a suspect early on in the investigation, any vehicle spotted in surveillance in the neighborhood during the time frame of the murders, the authorities would release that footage. Isn't this the very reason for the bolo? Be on the lookout. The mainstream media would report that a white vehicle was seen entering the neighborhood, snooping around, and then leaving around the time frame the murders had occurred. But I guess it's not important. There wouldn't be a trial. There wouldn't be any of this nonsense. They would have the DNA. They would physically prove he entered the neighborhood before, during and after the murders, viewing him drive in and drive out. Bam, guilty as charged, sentenced to death for the murders of 4 college students in the state of Idaho. Yet that surveillance hasn't been released. One would say, well, Moscow PD would not release that footage. Oh, really? Well, when they had a, quote, persons of interest, they released the gas station surveillance footage, notifying the public about that being a potential suspect or even killer. So when you actually arrest someone and there are claims surveillance captured this person in the neighborhood, you get the point. Okay, whatever. Let's talk about the individuals who are leaking footage.
Yeah, the authorities would release footage from that neighbor's camera prior to having a suspect in custody. And since the mainstream media went absolutely bonkers in making claims against him, the surveillance footage would have been released after he was arrested as well. We question Get a Clue for claiming that he spotted a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance. But the FBI didn't identify the vehicle in that surveillance. It would have been the neighbor's security camera. Let's see here. Is it possible that Get a Clue gave the FBI a tip on a white Hyundai Elantra? Meaning, Get a Clue presented that year, and the so-called FBI expert spotted that exact vehicle in surveillance. Wait a minute, let's see, hear me out. Get a Clue suggested that the 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra was destroyed. Now isn't it ironic that he suggested this, when we know there was a white Hyundai Elantra crashed and abandoned in Eugene, Oregon? We can come to the logical conclusion that he is claiming that vehicle was destroyed, based on the white Hyundai Elantra crashed and abandoned in Oregon, which was in fact a 2011 to 2013 model. But this would mean that vehicle was the actual suspect, right? Also, we have to keep in mind, Get a Clue claimed it was a 2011 to 2013 model, but ranged the vehicle in the Linda Lane surveillance from 2011 to 2020, which obviously included Kohberger's model. And of course, the FBI updated the model from 2011 to 2013 to 2011 to 2016, which also included Kohberger's model. And if that wasn't suspicious enough, he also stated he wanted to prove Kohberger was guilty. Now all of this is aligned with cunningly trying to frame Kohberger within the true crime community. One would say, oh, what do they have to gain in doing such? Well, money for one. And second, this was a high-profile case, with 4 college students murdered, and a town that is trying to keep the truth under the radar. So of course there will be DC agents sent to execute damage. Who leaked the next-door neighbor's security camera footage? There have been claims that Kaylee's family got their hands on it. Well, if they believe it's Kohberger and his vehicle was spotted, why not leak the time frame he was there? Oh, they can't do that. Well, how are these people leaking footage then? If you're not grasping this, all of these leaks are from law enforcement, in association with individuals on social media, such as Jeff H. and Get a Clue, who snoop around. They're done. Let's move on to the other agent. Quote, anyone notice it's only the channels with 0 law degree that pushes this conspiracy BS. Unquote. This is just okay. Dylan's affidavit is currently being exposed by Ann Taylor in the trial. The additional male's DNA with blood on the stair rail, not being identified or investigated as potential suspects, is being exposed by Ann Taylor in the trial. The lack of surveillance evidence is being exposed by Ann Taylor in the trial. Where's the conspiracy BS? You're right, though. There is a conspiracy against the defendant. Let me touch on something for a moment. College students, stuck on TikTok, narcissistic, materialistic, party-time spoiled brats, want to see Kohberger go down for the murders. The young generation wants him to go down because they want to protect the truth about what goes on within their social circles. Drug trafficking, sex trafficking, scamming, drug dealers posing as good college kids, making money on sites such as OnlyFans. All of this behavior is being gradually exposed indirectly by the frame of Brian Kohberger. And to protect this criminal and promiscuous activity, everyone wants to use him as the scapegoat. Now that's just the facts, we all see it. We all know he's being framed, and if he's being framed for the murders, where 4 college students were the victims, the motive for those murders has to be associated with the previous elements. We pointed this out, but again, we were viewing an older stream from Dago, and one of his guests decided to leave the stream because she didn't appreciate one of the guests presented the theory that those housemates were involved in criminal activity. Well, if there isn't a motive provided for the suspect arrested and charged, among other things, then the motive behind the murders needs to be revealed. And if you take the lone creep stalker narrative out of the equation, where is the motive? It has to be linked to a consequence, right? That consequence was so severe that 4 college students lost their lives. It's not fraternity or sorority hazing gone wrong. So the consequence, which Jack Showalter warned Madison about, involved a severe punishment. And that severe punishment is likely involving money and secrets.
Quote, I watched 2 minutes of this and found it not only weird, but so much conjecture. It's nuts. Really? Because 2 minutes into that episode, we were breaking down the News Nation article that has Dylan providing a different account of what happened to a private investigator. What's weird about this? Where's the conjecture? How is it nuts? Let me guess. It's weird because your social peer group are gradually getting exposed for being involved in those murders. Is this your way of executing damage control? Of course. I mean, why even post a comment such as this? We're just going to put you on the big screen for everyone to see how ridiculous you sound. And not only how ridiculous you sound, but also that you're executing damage control, which is a way to conceal the truth about who was responsible for those murders. That's not a good look. Might want to stop blabbering nonsense on the Chaos channel because we don't let it go unchallenged. Quote, you're talking about real life people, human beings and victims. They have been through enough and you're making it worse. Not only that, but your videos are very weird. Block incoming. Unquote. You're not going anywhere. Stop bluffing. You're drawn to the chaos because we cut through the nonsense. Of course, you're here to execute damage control. So you have to keep track of everything we present regarding this case. You see individuals who threaten to unsubscribe and such may unsubscribe, but continue to spy on your channel. So in essence, you're actually making things worse, as you would say. And what these DC agents do is pretend like they just stumbled across your channel. Negative. You're out of your depths over here. See, this is one of the problems with this case. If you actually cared about the victims, then you would be seeking the truth. You know, like, I don't know who was involved, who could possibly be involved. And this doesn't exempt a college student posting videos on TikTok and appearing innocent and just wanted to have fun from being questioned, unless you want to protect them. Now, let's address the issue they're trying to gaslight about. Not all college students are innocent. Some do just want to have fun. Smoke a little bud, drink alcohol, go out and party. You know, the college life. But without the motive established, can this person explain why these individuals were murdered? Oh, let me guess, you think it was the creepy loser in cell, obsessed with those cute girls, right? Well, that was the narrative pushed, but there hasn't been any evidence that Kohberger knew anyone in that home. It would have been established the prosecution wouldn't wait for some grand scheme to reveal all of this in trial. They rejected the claims that Kohberger stalked or had followed those girls. So if there is no motive linked between Kohberger and those housemates, you're missing a major. Let me see how I should frame this. That's right. You're missing a major purpose for murdering those housemates. Without a purpose, there's no driving factor to commit the crime. Okay, we're walking this person down to get to the point here. The DoorDash driver ordered and delivered the crack to the home. If that DoorDasher did this, then Xana didn't order anything, right? Right? Are you paying attention? I'm pretty sure you're up to speed with the case. The DoorDash driver was never identified. An individual visited the crack and talked to an employee who described a female with dark hair who had ordered and delivered the crack. This is Bonnie. So if this is Bonnie, who is a known drug dealer in town, along with her partner in crime, this in itself has a motive related to drug activity. Dylan has conflicting accounts of what happened that night. Heck, even the mainstream media came out and claimed both Dylan and Bethany were texting each other during the murders. Moscow PD never provided Dylan's whereabouts prior to the murders, but they did provide the whereabouts of Bethany prior to the murders. Dylan's whereabouts were not. Are you listening? I'll say it again to see if it sticks inside your numbskull. Her whereabouts were not provided. So this means those whereabouts are linked to the murders. Wow. How did we come to this conclusion, you say? Because Moscow PD is never provided her whereabouts. Hey, look at that. Quite simple to conclude. The DoorDash driver wasn't identified. There was blood discovered inside the home of another male. Come now. The truth is coming out one way or another. Now, if you're not able to acknowledge that those housemates or someone in that home was associated with Bonnie and Clyde, then you're executing damage control. It's that simple. And if we really look into what this person is saying, they're actually referring to us exposing Dylan. Yes, because that's the only person who was exposed in the previous episode. Have you been paying attention? Dylan has been questioned from the beginning. Do you think true crime investigators are supposed to look the other way after some time has passed? Do you think she's struggling? Do you think she is going through tough times? Well, she should be going through tough times due to what she was involved in. Mind you, these murders had to be set up from within that house. It was timed, planned out, and someone had to be a part of this plan from inside the home. So for them to basically attempt to draw attention away from exposing Dylan, well, damage control. We stay on what is the most logical and concrete evidence established in this case. And that would be that Dylan is a suspect. That's where the trail begins. And if you don't like the chaos staying on this trail, well, just go ahead and block away, but you're not blocking the truth from coming out.
Yep, that's all, folks. Your feelings do not matter. Sorry to say that in such a brute manner. But our investigative style is not motivated by feelings, claiming it's offensive to discuss those housemates. And they've been through a lot, and they're human beings and all. What about the individuals who murdered those human beings? Oh, seems you're not concerned about how they perceived those human beings. Not sure what case you've been following, but those killers didn't perceive them as human beings at all. Your so-called integrity and compassion for those victims is nothing more than guilt projection onto those that oppose your objective. And that objective is to frame an innocent man. It's obvious. Anyone who somehow ignores the clear and cut evidence that this was plotted from within Moscow is a part of framing Kohberger. Our job is not to cater to your feelings, quite narcissistic of you, to tell someone how they should address this case. Investigating focuses on the information, the evidence, not, I repeat, not your delicate emotions, which is nothing more than a guilty conscience anyway. You can't play the wimpy role over here. Oh, my feelings are hurt. I'm offended by what you're saying about the housemates. Cut the crap. It's not working. We've spent damn near 3 years investigating this case, while you've been snooping around in the comments section for damn near 3 years. Who has gotten closer to getting those housemates justice in this time frame? You or the chaos? Based on your comment, well, it's not even the same reality. To Jeff H., you might fool others out there, but the chaos clearly triggers you into showing your true colors. Guess that's what happens when the frame is starting to crumble. All of the conspirators start losing their shit. You just couldn't stay away, as the saying goes, my friends. Truth and deception have a special bond, such a magnetic connection, you see. Truth draws to deception to expose it, while deception draws to the truth out of fear of being exposed. This is the chaos sector,